Hello, lovely students. I know that you just love adding and subtracting fractions, so I know you're going to love adding and subtracting fractions when we have polynomials, so get excited. Okay, the first type we're going to be adding and subtracting are when our fractions have common denominators, which when they have common denominators, it will save some of our steps. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. I'm going to walk us through the steps, though, as we solve to make sure we're getting all the steps in that we need. Okay, so first of all, it says factor only the denominators. Okay, I know that when we multiplied and divided, we factored everything. Okay, but it will actually be a waste of time to factor the numerators because eventually we need to add the numerators together or subtract them. And if they're in factored form, in order to combine like terms, we'd have to distribute all of it back out again. So, if you want to, you can factor the numerators, not like it's incorrect. It's just, it kind of wastes some time, which I'll kind of point it out as we solve. That doesn't really make sense right now. Okay, so my first one, we need to factor only the denominators, which, since I'm degree 1 in both of my denominators, it's already factored. Holy hot dog, right? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, also we need to make sure all of our first terms are positive in the denominator. So, my first term's positive and my first term's positive. And when I say first term, you guys, I'm referring to the first term if your polynomial is in standard form. Okay, if it's not in standard form, you need to make sure it is in standard form and make sure your leading coefficient is positive. Otherwise, we'll have to factor out a -1 to turn that bad boy positive. But we're good to go. So we'll keep going. Okay, it says, come up with a common denominator. Well, if I'm looking here, I already have a common denominator. They're both x plus 3. So we're just checking off steps like it's nothing. Now it says determine where the expression is undefined. And we do that by setting each factor in the common denominator not equal to 0. Remember, we can never, ever, ever, ever divide by 0 or a kitten will die. And we're not trying to do that today. So, when we do this, we're going to set all of our different factors not equal to 0, which since I have the same denominator already and only have one thing in each denominator, all I have to do is set x plus 3 not equal to 0. So not equal to 0. We cannot allow it to be 0. Okay, so the only factor I have in each denominator is x plus 3. So I'm going to say x plus 3 cannot equal 0 to make sure we don't kill any kids today. I'm not a fan of killing kids. Okay, so to solve for x, the way we move positive 3 to the other side is by subtracting 3 on both sides. Which 3 minus 3 cancels out and turns to 0, and 0 minus 3 is -3. So x cannot equal -3, or a cat will die. But we'll save it. If we get any answers like that, we just call it extraneous, which saves it. Okay, so we won't ever get there. Trust me. We will not kill any cats anytime soon while you're in this class. Okay, so we determine where it's undefined. Now it says make all fractions have a common denominator. Well, guess what, you guys? We already have a common denominator, so we don't have to force them to be common denominators yet. Okay, so the next step, add the numerators, but keep the denominator as the common denominator. Okay, so since I have a common denominator, I'm just going to write it all over the common denominator, which is x plus 3. And then we just add all my numerators together. So I have a 3x minus 4 plus my other numerator, which is 2x plus 5. Alright, and then it just says to simplify. So I'm going to simplify next. Alright, so I'm going to combine all my like terms in the numerator. So looking here, okay, I'm going to start with the term that has an x in it, which the only other term with an x in it is a 2x. And 3x plus 2x will give me a 5x. So this will be 5x. And then my other like terms are -4 and +5. So -4 plus 5 will give me a +1. All over x plus 3. Remember, you guys, we don't do anything with the common denominator when you add fractions. You just leave it alone and write the numerators over that bad boy right there. So do not touch the denominator once it is a common denominator. Alright, and then it says simplify and factor the numerator. So at the start, we don't factor the numerator because if we would have tried to factor anything, in order to combine like terms, it can't really be in factored form because we can't add things in factored form. But at the very end, if there are any common factors, we factor the numerator in case we need to simplify the fraction and cross out any like terms in the numerator and denominator. But looking here, I can't really factor this because it's degree 1. So we simplified, we factored, and then if we factor it and we can divide out any common factors, we will. But since I can't, this problem is a donezo. Bam! My answer is 5x plus 1 over x plus 3. Holy hot dog, right?